Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new episode, episode 32 of Soccer by Paul and Hady. One of your hosts, Hady Raphael, and I'm joined by my friend and my colleague, Paul Vance. Hey, Paul, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm good, Hady. Good to talk to you again. I think we've been off air for a few weeks, but I think we've got plenty to talk about today, right?
Exactly, and you know what? We said it, multiple times that our podcast is not going to be something that's every week, and it's just going to be for fun, right? For people that want to listen to us that love our chemistry, because I think we're starting to have a good chemistry here, and I think people really love the way we chat about soccer and soccer or football, whatever you want to call it. So you know what? We're having fun. We're very happy to do that podcast. So whenever we do have time, we record a podcast, and that's what we're doing right now, right, Paul?
Yeah, the chemistry's great. We both think Manchester United are fantastic, and we both think Marseille are, well.
Okay. You know what? I don't agree. The chemistry is really not good. So have a nice day. Bye, Paul.
Yeah. Okay. All the best.
No, but yeah. It's always nice because we can make fun of each other from time to time. And Paul, I'm not going to be very, very mean to you today, but I'm we're going to talk about Manchester United, I think, later in the episode. So we'll see.
You're not going to mention the Europa League, are you?
I'm not sure. Maybe not, but we'll see.
This chemistry's starting to worry me.
So let's talk about the good stuff. Today we're the 19th of August, so we're recording right now ourselves. It's about 5 p.m. Here in Canada. And today there was some big news from the CONCACAF for Canada soccer. So for the men's national team in Canada, with the draw of the World Cup qualifiers for the CONCACAF region, and Canada is of course going to have a good group. It's not going to be very hard, but there's still a couple of teams that could be worrying. But we should win that group pretty easily, right, Paul?
Yeah, you know what? If Canada can't come out of this group as winners, they don't deserve to be going to. They don't deserve to be going to the World Cup. They've got Suriname, they've got Bermuda, they've got the Cayman Islands, and they've got Aruba. They've never lost to any of those teams ever before in history. In fact, I don't think they've played the Caymans or Aruba before. So, yeah, they got 4 fixtures. They just need to finish top of that, and then they'll join the other 5 group winners in a 2-legged tie. And the 3 winners of those 2-legged ties join the other 5 teams in the, we used to call it the hex, but it's now the octagonal, I guess, right?
Exactly. It seems like the octagonal right now. The thing is, and I really want to go into it a bit further. If you look at the 4 other countries that are in the same group of Canada, so we have Canada, we have Suriname, we have Bermuda, Cayman Islands, and Aruba. I understand that Cayman Islands and Aruba, it would take something extraordinary for Canada to lose against them. But the other two, Bermuda had a very good Gold Cup in 2019, just losing twice 2-1 against Costa Rica and against Jamaica, I think. I don't know. Costa Rica and another good team. And winning the last game against Guatemala 2-0. So it's not a very weak team. The Bermuda team, right?
Yeah, but it's worked out. It's kind of worked out well for the Canadians because they've got both those more difficult games, right, against Suriname and Bermuda at home. So you have to think Canada are going to progress to the 2-legged ties out of this group. The one thing I'd be asking is, I wonder where the games are going to be played. They play Suriname. The games in Canada, of course, I mean, the venues. They play Suriname on the 17th. So, I should start with Bermuda. They play Bermuda on the 8th of October, and then they play Suriname on the 17th of November. So I'm wondering where those games are going to be played. I guess Toronto is probably favourite to host, certainly at least one of them, but maybe both.
Yeah, it's either going to be both, or maybe they're going to play one game in Vancouver, one game in Toronto. I doubt it very much that we'll see a game in Montreal. I'll be very, very surprised if it is in Montreal, but we'll see. We'll see. I just want to rectify myself because I said Bermuda lost in the Gold Cup 2019. They lost against Costa Rica 2-1, and then they lost against Haiti 2-1, and they won against Nicaragua 2-0. So it's not really a very weak team. And the other team that could be interesting is Suriname, because Suriname just got the authorization to get people like players from the Netherlands play for them. We have the right back, the Seattle Sounders right back, Kelvin Leerdam, that will play for Suriname. That's one of them. You have I'm going to give you a few names because I noted them down, and very interesting names because they're not really like bad players. You have, I'm just looking for the names. So you have Ryan Dunk from Galatasaray. You have Diego Biseswar from Saloniki. I don't know if people know him, Biseswar, but it's a very good player. And you have other players, one from Derby County, Florian Joseph Zoon, another guy from Maccabi Haifa, another guy from Willem II. So you have players that could be interesting for a team like Suriname, but as you said, if we don't win those 4 games, there's something really wrong with the Canadian national team.
Yeah, and of course Suriname is the birth country of the great Ruud Gullit. So if there's a couple of little dreadlock Ruud Gullits knocking around, they might find themselves in the Suriname team as well, right?
True. But we'll see for Canada. It's going to be hard. I just want to repeat the format, like Paul said. So we have to win the group to qualify for the next round. The next round we play against we're the group B. So we're playing in the next round against the group of Haiti. So logically, we'll see some sort of revenge from Canada against Haiti. They lost their game in the Gold Cup 2019. So if Haiti do win their group, then it's going to be Canada-Haiti again. So what do you think about that?
Well, this is going to be difficult, and you talked about the Gold Cup, and the Haitians played like men possessed that night, and deserved to beat Canada. Let's face it, they were well worth the 3-2 win, especially having had to come back from 2 goals down. Canadians were very, very disappointing that night, to be quite honest, and including Mr. Alphonso Davies, who's absolutely starring at the moment for Bayern Munich. So I think he's come on leaps and bounds from then. So he's a much better player now, even than what he was then, even though he was a good player back then. But I think in we're talking about that group that Haiti are in. Nicaragua were a team that could maybe cause Haiti some problems, but I think the Canadians need to look on that group as if Haiti are probably going to prevail and get through to the 2-legged playoffs. So they got to make sure, John Herdman's got to make sure that they do better against Haiti this time than what happened in the US at the last Gold Cup, because I think when you look at the Canadian team now and you look at the success, I know you want to talk a little bit about Jonathan David. So when you look at the success that he's had, and you look at some of the other players that are available to the Canadians, we should at least be as good as Haiti, if not better. And that's not to dismiss the Haitians, because certainly they have a few decent players knocking around Europe as well. So certainly not going to be a pushover. It's going to be a tough 2-legged tie. But Canada's got to be positive going into it, and they got to be approaching it as if they're favourites, and they got to try and make sure they get the job done.
Yeah, true. And you know what? It's going to be hard because we're going to have to win against a very good physical team. I hope that John Herdman learned his lesson. That please no more our favorite right back Godinho in the lineup, please, John Herdman.
Yeah.
So we'll see what's going to happen, but it's very interesting. You know what? I like this new format. I've heard a lot of people saying that, it shows that the president of the CONCACAF is Canadian because like he's giving an advantage to Canada. To be honest, I don't think that it's an advantage. I think it's fair. It's not normal that Canada, with the generation that they have, find themselves really, caught because they're the last 4 years they didn't have good results internationally. So for me, I think it's a fair way of doing things. I think that the CONCACAF region deserves to have, instead of having 6 teams battling for those 2.5 spots or 3.5 spots, sorry. I think they deserve to have 8 teams battle for those 3.5 spots. And I think it's a good thing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the octagonal rather than the hex looks very, very interesting because you actually have 8. You definitely have 8 teams in the region that have the potential of beating each other, right? Yeah. So as well as the 5 who are already qualified, which is Jamaica, USA, Mexico, Costa Rica, and Honduras, you're going to have 3 from. Probably, there's a couple of groups, Curacao and Guatemala. That could be a tight one, right? That's in Group C. So one of those will probably go through into the 3 two-legged ties. You expect Canada to be there. You expect El Salvador to be there. You expect Panama to be there. You expect probably Haiti to be there, and also Trinidad. All 6 of those countries have the potential of taking points off the likes of USA and Mexico, who are generally sort of termed the top 2 countries in the region. So I think I think the octagonal is a very, very interesting prospect.
Exactly. So just if you put aside USA and Mexico, let's say they get the first place and the second place, you still have one place and a half to go because the fourth placed will have to go to confederation playoffs. So we'll play with another confederation team to see if they qualify to the next World Cup. So it depends. The confederation changes from one World Cup to the other. I'm not sure against which confederation will play this year, but you still have the third place and that, half place at the fourth position. And I think all teams are pretty, if you take United States and Mexico from the equation, Honduras, Costa Rica, Jamaica, Canada, even Curacao, Panama, Haiti, Trinidad and Tobago, they can all beat themselves. So you know what? There's a battle going on here, and I think it's important to put all the good teams together and give them all a chance to qualify to the World Cup. So that's my opinion.
It starts to look a little bit about the CONMEBOL qualifying. That's the South American, of course, qualifying group where all 10 nations are thrown in like a league. I was going to say a mini league. It's not a mini league. It's actually a league. So
it is a league. Yeah.
So they play each other twice, home and away, and I guess the top 4 kind of. I think maybe they have 4.5 or something like that. But it's a good competition, and there's no reason why. The CONCACAF region shouldn't have a top 8 because you know what? Whoever's in that top 8 are all going to be competitive. Obviously, there'll be the favourites there'll always be favourites like USA, Mexico, maybe Costa Rica, but favourites don't always win, as we know.
Yeah, true. Favorites don't always win. What's really important is that at least Canada will not have to go look for friendlies because there won't be enough. There's not enough international dates to get friendlies, right? Right, Paul? It's very important to note that. The schedule is pretty much very full already for the Canadian national team and all the other teams in CONCACAF because by March 2022, we'll know who qualified for the World Cup 2022. So the last date will be in March 2022. Yeah. So it's going to be a pretty congested schedule for the teams in CONCACAF, right?
Yeah. Hey, come on. The less friendlies, the better. Give me competitive football
You're
any
right.
day.
You're
any
right.
day.
You're right. You're right. Let's hope we're not going to have another Nations League that's going to, I think that it's time for that with the whole situation, I think that Nations League should be put aside just to give a bit more time for the World Cup qualifiers. That's my opinion, but we'll see about that. So that's about that's the news as of today regarding Canada and the national team. Let's move on to the other subject that we like to talk about, right, Paul? The impact, the Montreal Impact, and their very curious move. Transferring Louis Binks to Bologna, and then Bologna loaning back Binks for the remainder of the season. I want to hear you about that because it's a very curious move. So what do you think about that move?
First of all, right, and I think it's important. I think it's important. I think it's important that we say this. I'm delighted for the player, as I'm sure you are, right? That he's getting an opportunity to play in one of the big leagues in Europe. Now, he's probably not going to go straight into the Bologna team, but it's certainly an attractive move for him. I know when I spoke to him a few months ago, he said how much he would have loved to have played in Spain or Italy. So it looks like he might be in line to kind of, realise that ambition, if you like. So I'm happy for the player. What concerns me is I don't see the benefit for Montreal Impact in this, and I can understand Joey Saputo looking at his two clubs, Bologna and Montreal Impact, and I can understand why he would prioritise Bologna over Montreal Impact. There's the various reasons why he would do it, and it really boils down to the fact that you're talking about Serie A versus MLS. But at the same time, I don't think Montreal Impact fans should be shortchanged. Now, my problem with this move is that on the face of it, Montreal Impact have identified a player, and maybe it was Walter Sabatini, I don't know, right? But Montreal Impact appear to have identified a player and brought him across to Montreal, stuck him in the first team. He's done well. Bologna have taken a look and said, fancy him, let's bring him over here. So Montreal's initial move is going to go apparently unrewarded, apart from the fact that we've got him loaned back for the rest of the year. And he's only 18. He'll be 19 in a few days. So potentially, if he's not ready to go out and play against the Juventuses of Serie A, he may well be ready to go out and play against some of the other teams, and I can understand why Bologna would want to have him in Italy right at this time, or when the new year arrives in 2021, because they want, if they're so keen on the guy, they probably want him over there, right? So he's probably going to be lost to us after the end of the year, unfortunately. The sad thing for me around all of this is, what does Montreal Impact get back out of this? And I'm struggling right now to see a benefit this side of the Atlantic.
Yeah, that's the real question behind this whole transfer. It feels like again, the Montreal Impact in this this whole situation is left with nothing, and that's what's really bothering us as journalists, as fans, as whatever, as people covering the Montreal Impact. We have a feeling that, whenever you're a club, okay, and you're a club, let's say you're a European club, okay, you have usually players. So you try a bit to find the diamond, the rough diamond in the world of football, right? So you go and you look for players in Africa, in Asia, in Oceania, in Australia, New Zealand, whatever you want to call them, the Caribbean, everywhere that you want. And whenever you see a player that's pretty good, you buy them. Okay, that's what we usually do. But usually the big clubs, what they do, they buy them and then they loan them or they give them to their reserves team. And then they see if the player is of good potential, and we see his progression. With the Montreal Impact, we seem to be that reserves team of Bologna. Like Bologna is like the Impact is going and taking all the risks, getting players that haven't really proved anything, like Binks, like I think the new guy that's coming next year, Kiza, or other young players, and then if they're good enough, they're not going to give a lot to the Montreal Impact. They're just going to be sold directly to Bologna. What really concerns me, it's not the fact that he was sold to Bologna. If he had stayed for a couple of years here at Montreal...
But that's the point, Hady. He's not been sold to Bologna. He's been given to them.
Exactly. He's being sold, but we're not really getting money out of it because we can't use that money because Bologna is the Saputo, the owner is the same for Bologna and Montreal. So we're not getting any GAM, any TAM or anything. And that's the problem. He only played 8 games for Montreal. Only 8 games. So like the Impact didn't have time to take anything out of Binks. And that's what really worries me.
Well, the only thing is he will play the rest of the season. But yes, I take your point.
Yeah, but one season.
Right.
One season.
But here's the thing for me, right? Say we're fortunate enough to be in a situation where the Impact Academy develops the next Alphonso Davies. What happens?
Yeah, that's what worries me. Are we going to sell him to a club, not Bayern Munich, but let's say, are we going to sell it to a club like Lazio or Roma for 10 million? Or are we going to sell it for nothing for Bologna? I'm pretty sure we're going to sell him for nothing to Bologna.
Spot on. And the thing for me, and a little bit of the concern that I have is when you look, Bologna might argue that, hey, this is the first player we've gotten from Montreal Impact, and I'll say fair enough, but it's a young player with potential, who's played at international level, not full international level, of course, but he's part of whichever age group he's at. He's part of his national team setup, and it's not any old national team. And I'm not pretending England are the best national team in the world, but it's a pretty, it's one of the big countries, right? So he's good enough at his age to be first choice at that level. So they're getting a lot of potential there, and somebody who could go on. Once he develops and hopefully gets into their first team and commands a large fee. And if he doesn't command a large fee and they can hold on to him, he could be a great player for Bologna for years. But what do we get back from Bologna? And I just think, I look at some of the players and they'll claim they've sent a lot of players over here. But you know what? They've sent players that they... and we're almost a convenience, right? So they'll offload Andrea Pisanu, Daniel Papone, Deon Boldor. Well, you know what? No thanks. But that's 3 of the players we've got. Okay, we've done well through Marco Devao, and we've done well through Blair Dishmili, but of course he went back. In fact, this Dishmili is probably the only player they've sent us that they haven't considered either 1, not good enough to cut it in Serie A, or 2, is near the end of his career, so we'll send him to Montreal. Because some of the other, well, maybe Safir Taider, you'll argue there, but I think Safir Taider was a player that they didn't want any longer. Orji, I think, was a player they didn't want any longer. Matteo Mancosu was a player they didn't want any longer.
Yeah, but he wasn't at Bologna, Mancosu. He's not coming from Bologna.
Oh, I thought he did. Sorry. Okay.
No. They got him from second. Oh no, he was at Bologna. You're right, but he was loaned to a second division team in Carpi.
He was a Bologna player. So you look at those players and they've been offloaded across here, not because they might come to Montreal and fit into a pattern or a tactical formation or a strategy that Montreal are trying to build on the field. They've been sent here because the team in Italy doesn't want them, right?
Yeah, you're right. And you know what? And what I don't like, and I don't know if I said it here in that podcast on Soccer by Paul and Hady, a lot of people are going to argue saying, but you know what? They loaned him back. And you said it even a few minutes ago. They loaned him back. They loaned Binks back to the Impact for this year.
Right.
And some people told me exactly the same thing for Lassi Lapalainen.
Right.
He was loaned to the Impact. But they're all on borrowed time. They're literally on borrowed time. If they do well, they're gone. If they don't do well, they're on the bench. So, we're not really winning anything. If they do well, we're good for one season. And then next year, what do we do?
No, I think we're getting the raw end of the deal here. And I think when you look at some of the players that have been over here that Bologna have sent over, and again, I'll say we look as if we've been a bit of a convenience for Bologna, who let's face it, decided they had to offload Pisano, Papone, Boldor, and people like that. We're getting shortchanged because they're being thrown over here, and they're taking places of players that we could go out and seek to actively recruit to play in the pattern and the identity that Montreal wants to display on the field of play. So these guys who don't fit in, they're being thrown at a coach and saying, make it work. Well, you know what? It hasn't worked so far. And I hope that that's not going to be what we see going forward. What I would love to see, the fact that we've been able to send Binks across, I would love to see Bologna go out and sign a player that would be someone who would slot into Thierry Henry's game plan, if you like, and send him over here on loan, or else send him over here, transfer him over here the way we've transferred Binks for free.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, though, is it?
No, it's not.
Whichever way you look at this or slice it and dice it, I don't see the benefit for Montreal Impact.
There's no benefit. There's no benefit. And the problem is, even if there is a benefit, there's nothing written down. So there's no contract. So there's nothing.
Listen,
a lot of people. One second. Now, a lot of people are saying, Paul, and that's that. They're all saying if Binks is sold from Bologna to another club afterwards, Montreal Impact is going to have a percentage of that fee. But there's nothing written because they're not allowed to get a percentage of that fee.
Yeah.
So you know what? I don't know. I don't know what people are doing. I don't know how someone like Thierry Henry or even Olivier Renard are agreeing to this. I don't understand it.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm thinking about it. One of the first reactions I had was, what does it mean for Olivier Renard's position? Gone out and gotten this player, and all of a sudden he's taken away. What does it say about Thierry Henry's position? What is Thierry Henry the reserve team manager of Bologna? I'm sure, I don't know. I mean, I would love the club to come out and help us understand this. I'd love to hear a statement coming out from Montreal Impact that helps us understand what has just gone on with the Binks transfer, because it doesn't look good for Montreal Impact.
It doesn't. It doesn't at all. And to be honest, I'm just afraid about the future of the club, because now I think that every player that's going to sign at the Montreal Impact in the future is going to say, you know what? If I'm good in 5 games, I'll be signed by Bologna. Do you want to have those kinds of mercenaries that sign for your club? Like, if you look at Kidza, even his agent said he's not going to stay long at Montreal Impact. He's looking for more.
Yeah.
What kind of message are you sending to the Montreal Impact supporters? What kind of message are you sending to the players that have bled for this club, like Patrice Bernier, like Asun Kamara, and like those players that have come and that have played a few years, 5, 6, 7 years for the club? What message are you sending?
I think it's okay if you get a couple of years out of those players.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
As they develop, and then you get a fee at the end of it. But just to give them, just to go, hey, Bologna, Here, we got another one for you. Take him, free, no charge. There's something wrong there, right?
But it's not only the no charge that we didn't have, like, even if it was for free, but he played a couple of seasons with the Impact, I would agree with it. You know what? It's good for the player. The player, proved that he's able to play to that level. You know what? Good for him. Good for the club. The club is going to have some visibility. So other players are going to come and play for a couple of years here because they know they have an option to go to Serie A afterwards. That I'm okay with it, even if it's for free. But right now, what we're saying is that the Montreal Impact step is not important. You play 4 or 5 games, you do well, you're going to Serie A. So we're that kind of club where you play 4 or 5 good games, you're out of here.
I thought the model we were looking at when Olivier Renard came in was go and recruit good young players, which is his forte, right? Especially from Europe, because that's where he's had success in the past. Get them in the first team, get them to develop, sell them on for a healthy profit. He's not going to be able to sell them on for a healthy profit if they're a player that Bologna wants. And that to me is a problem, and that's why I would like to see Montreal Impact, somebody at the club coming out, probably Joey Saputo, and basically saying, right, here's the deal. But because at the moment the way things stand, and there's been pretty much a silence around it, they've just pretty much said Louis Binks. Yeah, they've just pretty much said Louis Binks has been transferred to Bologna. Bang, period, full stop. That's it, done. So somebody needs to come out and help us understand this. Maybe whatever money is being generated or whatever money Bologna is saving in not having to go and sign a centre half, if that money is going to be made available somehow, and I don't know how the finances between the two clubs work, so what I'm saying is maybe about to be naive, or maybe what I'm about to say is maybe naive, but, in some way, does it mean that there's extra funds available to Montreal Impact because of what Bologna didn't have to spend, for instance, in bringing in a centre-back, which would maybe enable us to sign a third DP? And I suspect the answer to that is no.
Of course not.
But that would be something that would certainly come out and appease the fans, right? But there needs to be something in this for Montreal Impact, and right now I'm not seeing it.
Nobody is. Nobody's seeing anything, Paul. And I agree with you. It's really bad. It's really bad for the Montreal Impact, and the fact and the lack of communication from the club. I'm sorry. Usually, if you go to any club across the world, not only in MLS, when you sell a big piece of your team, because fortunately or unfortunately, but Louis Binks, in 8 games, made himself a starter for the Montreal Impact. I think we both agree on that, right?
Yeah.
So if you're selling one of your starters, usually you recruit someone at his place before announcing that he's going. Or when you recruit someone at his place, you sign the player that will come and take his place afterwards. You sign him like within a couple of days, just to make sure that there's not a lot of people yelling and being mad like we are right now.
Yeah. So where's the planning around it? And maybe they've got something up their sleeve. Maybe something's going to happen. But right now, in the face of it, it looks like a weak situation for Montreal Impact. And arguably he's our best centre back, right? I know you like I know you like Rod Fanny, as do I.
He's almost 39.
Correct. So you got to say he's our most valuable centre back, right? For sure, right? And we've just gone and given him away and not replaced him. Now, the football I've watched all down through the years, if that happened in any one of the top 4 or 5 leagues in Europe, right, the fans would be up in arms. And actually not only the top 5 clubs in countries in Europe, pretty much any country. If I go back to Northern Ireland, where average crowds are about 2,000 or 3,000, and my team Glentoran had done the same thing, the fans would be going nuts. There would be a situation outside the next home game where the directors would be pretty frightened to come back out after the match until the police had cleared the crowd. But that's not going to happen here because we're probably a lot more civilized in Canada, and somebody at the home if they're listening to this is probably going to take my head off for saying that. But it's due to the passion of the fans over there that those situations arise. And I've seen some stuff on Twitter and things, and Impact fans querying this, but nowhere near enough to my liking. I would like to know what's happening here as somebody who's been a season ticket holder from 2012, and quite frankly, it disappoints me. Yeah, I'll give the club the benefit of the doubt. There might be something coming along that we don't know about, and I hope so. I really do hope so. But I've got my concerns.
Yeah, we all got our concerns, and to come back to the fans not being very vocal. And you know what? That's the problem. The Impact doesn't have the history behind them in order to have that kind of pressure, and that's the problem. Like usually, most of the fans of the Impact, and, like yourself, you're saying that you're a season ticket holder since 2002 and 12. And even before, I'm sure you were watching some Impact games, but you were like a bit detached from the team. So we had, 2012. So about most of the people that have been following the Impact, I'm talking about the majority of them, have been following the club for eight years. So you know what? And in the last 8 years, have they developed that strong link between them and the club? I don't think so. So a lot of people are saying, you know what? Okay, the Impact is still doing the same mistake again. I don't care. Let's go and watch hockey instead. Let's go and watch the Champions League. Let's go and watch my English team. Let's go and watch my French team. Let's go and watch my Italian team, and so on. So that's the problem. They don't have that passion yet for the club to put that much pressure, because they have other options, which in other countries you don't have that other option that people have here in Montreal.
Yeah, I have to be careful with what I say here, because I don't want to run the risk of being called a Euro snob, because I'm not. I mean, I love watching MLS, and I have to agree with you what you're saying. The passion for the game here, and I don't get me. There's some very passionate Montreal Impact fans, but when I fantastic, and they do a great job, and they make a good atmosphere at games and so forth, and both the 1642 guys and the ultras. I mean, credit to them all who make the atmosphere that we have. There's just not enough of them yet, right? And that's why the passion, I think, are a big part of the reason why the passion here doesn't match the passion that we see that we see in Europe. And the other reason is because it's a lot more deep seated in Europe as well. I mean, club's history and tradition goes back way longer than what we have in Montreal Impact, and you can't just build that tradition. You just can't. It can't happen overnight. It takes a long time to manifest itself, and it's still not really happened yet. Although there's some incredibly fanatical Impact fans that you see at the stadium, and of them as well. And I mean, there was a lad, you probably know his name, I can't remember it, but he was at every away game last season and the season before. That's fantastic commitment. It's absolutely tremendous, and I take my hat off to people like that. I really do, because it's to be so admired. But I think you're right. We still don't have the passion here. And I think it's probably normal that we still don't have the passion here that you see in Europe. But, and if you did have that passion that you see at a lot of these older established clubs in Europe, I think the management of Montreal Impact would find it a little bit more difficult to do things like what they've just done with the Louis Binks transfer. Or at least if they did the Louis Binks transfer, there would be an effective communication that comes out to help the fans understand and appease them, and not allow them to deal with this silence, this vacuum of this lack of information, which creates a vacuum and makes people like you and I speculate on what might be going to happen and what hasn't happened and all the rest. So, I'd love the club to come out at the very least and tell us, hey guys, hey fans, we really value you guys, and this is what's going on. This is going to be good for the football club. But I'm not seeing it.
No, as usual, the lack of communication from the club, that's something that we've heard and we've seen since the beginning of since the club was founded in 1993. So, nothing new from the Montreal Impact. And you know what? The years go by and you think that you're getting a better club, and you realize that you're not. And we were really talking, and we were really happy about the move of the Montreal Impact when they hired Kevin Gilmore, because he said, you know what, at least it's not going to be the nephew of Saputo that comes and does all the transfers. We were happy about that. And now we're getting this kind of message from the team saying, you know what, we're only a step forward for good players or young players to be. And it's there's nothing that we're not gaining anything. And you know what, I think that the Montreal Impact doesn't want to learn from their mistake, and that's the problem. Let's see if we're wrong. I hope we're going to be wrong. I hope we're going to see something new from the Montreal Impact. I doubt it very much, but let's hope. Let's see. I can't wait to see the rest and the continuation of that story there.
I hope we're wrong too, and I hope they've got something up their sleeve, and I really, really do. And maybe this discussion that we're having is it's invalid if something in the next few weeks transpires that's very positive for us all. But I just find it a little bit difficult to believe, and maybe even some people would find it a little bit insulting that the Impact feel that they can make the move that they've just made with Louis Binks and expect not to follow it up with some kind of communication to the fans. It's almost as if the fans don't matter. We're sending our best centre back across to Bologna, and it's fine. We're not getting any money for him. Well, you know what? There needs to be some skin in the game for Montreal Impact fans. There has to be, and I just think it's a bit. Maybe those who feel that it's insulting, maybe they're right. They go and they pay their money week in, week out, their season in, season out for their season tickets, and they're kept in the dark. And maybe they're not kept in the dark. Maybe it's as transparent as what we see. Maybe that's it. He's gone, and that's it. And we just have to sit and wait for somebody else to be signed. But I just think there's something. It just doesn't feel right, right?
You're right. It doesn't feel right. I think we said enough about that transfer, to be honest. There's nothing more that we can add. We talked about our frustration, and I think everybody that followed the club is frustrated and can't understand it. I see and I heard people trying to make sense of it, but there's no communication from the Montreal Impact. Let's wait and see what the Impact's program is, because they need to do something about that. I don't know what they're going to do, but we'll see. Let's talk about the MLS, the return of MLS, my dear Paul, and of course the new format of the Canadian Championship for the year 2020. So first of all, let's talk about the MLS. The MLS's back tournament is over. Portland winning the title and getting a Champions League spot for 2021. Right after, a day after, Paul, the MLS started again its regular season with Dallas playing against Nashville. They played 2 games, and I was very surprised of the results, because Nashville played twice in Dallas, and they got 1 win and 1 draw in Dallas. Yeah, and that's great. Very good results for Nashville.
It's great results for Nashville, because we have been trying to win in Dallas since we got into MLS and haven't managed it.
Yeah, true. And the
You know?
expansion team is able to get 4 points out of 6 from Dallas.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. And afterwards, we were waiting for the schedule for the Canadian teams because we saw the schedule for the American teams, and then a few days later, we saw the schedules for the Canadian teams. So the three Canadian teams are going to play against each other, for a month or a month and a half, and that will make sure that all the games between the Canadian teams are played right away. And because of the whole ban of, we can't travel, the borders are closed for Canadians to travel to the U.S. and for borders are closed for U.S. citizens to come to Canada unless it's something very urgent. So that's why, unfortunately, we couldn't have any American teams come to Canada, to Montreal or Canada. So that's why the teams are playing against each other. We had the first game that was played yesterday, so the 18th of August. Toronto playing against Vancouver. A big win for Vancouver. A 3-0
No, for
win.
Toronto.
For Toronto, sorry. Yeah, I meant Toronto. 3-0 score with 2 goals from Pablo Piatti. One amazing goal for Pablo Piatti. To be honest, I wasn't really sure of what he's able to bring to Toronto, and he's proving to be a very good acquisition. No.
Yeah, so far so good for him. Yeah, and Toronto.
Exactly. And let's move on for the Montreal Impact schedule. First game will be played next week on Tuesday. Montreal will play against Vancouver. What do you think about that game? And do you think that the Impact is going to be ready for the return of the regular season?
Yeah, I think they're going to be as ready as they can be. Obviously, they've not seen action since they came back from. I'm talking about match action. They've not seen match action since they've come back from down south, and there was a 2-week period of self-isolation or whatever you want to call it. They've resumed training now, I think, over a week, and I think they're going to be as ready as they can be. They'll be as ready as Vancouver, I'm sure. So, I don't think there's... Well, okay, so Vancouver have a game under their belt this week, but I think we should be as ready as Vancouver come next week, and I don't think there's any issue in that respect. I just hope that we're good enough to get a home win, because it's looking very much like anybody who watched the game last night, and I hope they improve, because they look like the whipping guys of the competition at the moment, because they were pretty horrible last night against Toronto. So we need to make sure we do a professional job next Tuesday.
Yeah, we need to make sure that we do a professional job, and we need to make sure that we're ready. I think that Thierry Henry said before the beginning of the MLS is Back tournament, he said something. He said something very interesting. He said that we haven't played any friendly games, and we kind of understood from him that he was taking this tournament as friendly games for him. So you know what? You had your friendly games. You had 4 games to prepare your team. Let's see what your team can do. So now no more excuse for Thierry Henry. I know you haven't played for a month, but I'm sorry. You had enough time to see what your team is capable of. And it's time now for the real thing. And I don't want any more excuses regarding the fact, we haven't played, it's been tough, we didn't have time to prepare, because all Canadian teams are exactly on the same level. Okay, yeah. They had exactly the same amount of days training, they had exactly the same amount of games, even maybe the same amount of games for all of them. So I don't want any more excuses. That's what I need from the Montreal Impact. Do you agree with me?
No, I do agree. I mean, this is for real. We've got to go out and, I mean, we're defending the title that we won last year, and I expect I expect Montreal to go out and defend this with everything they have, and it's going to be tough because I think we're in a better position than Vancouver, but Toronto are going to be a hard game for us. And I know we ran them in the end fairly close at the MLS's back tournament, but I still think if you look at their team and you look at ours, they're pretty much stronger than us in I suppose all departments. So it's going to be a mighty to play. I'm glad we've got Toronto at home twice, because I think if we had Toronto away twice, it's going to be an awful lot more difficult. But we do have to go to Vancouver twice as well, and that's not going to be easy for us. We don't have a great record there. We've an okay, I guess, record, but. I think that we got to make the home games against Toronto count. We got to win both of those for us, I think, to have a chance of progressing to the final of the Canadian Championship.
Yeah, you're right. And exactly, it's going to be very important for the regular season, but also for the Canadian Championship, because if we do qualify to the Canadian Championship, and I want to talk about that Canadian Championship where the best teams in MLS, so the one that gets the most points, will play against the winner of the Island Games of the CanPL. I think it's going to be important for the Montreal Impact to qualify again and to prove that last year wasn't a fluke.
Yeah,
last year was something was something that showed that we're not a second tier team anymore. And because right now we look like a second tier team, and let's see. Yeah, go ahead.
I totally agree with you, and I think apart from anything else, there's nothing that lifts the profile of your club like playing in international club competitions, right? And it's important for us to be at that table. It's important for Montreal Impact to be at that table, and I think Toronto realise that now as well, and therefore. The Canadian Championship is probably taken more seriously now than what it was, say, maybe 6-7 years ago. Ultimately, you can actually get yourself to the big party in the World Club Championship by winning the continental competition. And we were one game away from that a few years ago when we played Club America at home. And how good would that have been to see the likes of Montreal Impact in a competition with the likes of Barcelona and teams like that. I can't remember who else qualified that particular year, but I know Barcelona were there. So we need to try and be on that stage. And if we can't get to the World Club Championship stage, it's still important for us. It's still important for Montreal Impact to put a footprint on the CONCACAF international stage. And yes, absolutely, I agree with you. It's important that we do this again. It's important that we defend our title.
True, but it's going to be hard. It is going to be hard, and I don't think we have the players that we need to do that. And right now, if you look at the Montreal Impact fans, I'm sure the players are exactly thinking the same things as us. There's a gray cloud over the Montreal Impact, and that's a sentence that Olivier Renard used. He said that there seems to be a gray cloud over the club, and I want to make sure that we remove it. And since he said that, we had the Louis Binks situation. So I'm sorry, the cloud is not gray anymore.
It's black.
The cloud is black now. So. So let's wait and see. Let's wait and see, because those games have to be played before we talk about the Montreal Impact and their move for Louis Binks. Let's hope and see we see a good Canadian championship, because I think it's going to be very interesting to see a game between an MLS side and a CanPL side. Yeah. I can't wait for that, to be honest.
There was last year, the qualifying for last year, there was an avenue for a CanPL side to kind of work themselves into the into the continental competition. Okay, they didn't make it, but so potentially there could have been 2 Canadian teams in the competition this year or last year or whatever. It's confusing now the way things have worked out with COVID, but Montreal is the only Canadian team in it currently, but there could have been another one. That's what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same thing for next year. For next year, it's exactly the same thing, because the winner of the CanPL does not only have a chance to win the Canadian Championship, but is qualified for the CONCACAF League. The CONCACAF League is exactly the same competition as Europa League in Europe, right, Paul? The Europa League, you know the competition, right?
No, I'm not familiar with it. I'm not familiar with it. I fell out with it last week.
Yeah, so the winner of the CanPL will be qualified to the CONCACAF League, and I think the last 8 of the CONCACAF League are qualified for the Champions League the next year. Right. So unfortunately, Forge didn't make it last year, but this year, if they win, we don't know the dates for the CONCACAF League this year in 2020. We don't even know if the CONCACAF League is going to happen. But if they do reach, if Forge, again, who's going to represent the CanPL, is going to reach the later stages, it's possible that they do find themselves next year in a Champions League. So that's pretty interesting. But we'll see about that.
Question.
Yeah, for sure.
Canadian Championship final. It's going to be between an MLS club, obviously, and a club from CanPL.
Yeah.
Where is it going to be played?
Oh, that's a very good question. So we don't know if the final, the Canadian Championship final, is going to be played on 2 legs or just 1 leg. We're still waiting to hear from Canada Soccer. They said that details for the Canadian Championship final will be announced at a later date, so we're waiting for that. But I think it would be, I would like to have a 2-legged final, because I think that we need something from the Canadian Championship. Like, we used to see a bit of drama in the Canadian Championship, and 1 game is not enough. I don't know if you agree with me, Paul.
Yeah, I think it needs to be the 2 legs to make it fair, and to people have been one of the terms that have come up through COVID has been sporting integrity, and I think if you've got the 2 legs, you've got your sporting integrity. I think it's wrong to play it in 1 game, because I can't see them playing at a neutral ground, because you're not going to get the crowd there, and it really shouldn't be played where one team's at home over the other.
Yeah, true. We'll see what's going to happen on that. And I think that's going to be, enough for our podcast today. I don't know if you have anything to add, my dear Paul, except that Manchester United was eliminated in the Europa League last week. Anything else to add?
Yeah, I think we felt that the season was long enough, and we didn't really. I should have had an excuse thought up, because I knew you were going to hit me with that. I should have had but I didn't. They had plenty of chances. They didn't take them. I was expecting probably better from maybe the main culprit for missing chances was Anthony Martial, but you know what? It is what it is. I think we've made a little bit of progress this year. We're in the Champions League next year, but we lost 3 semi-finals. That's not good. So, anyway, I do hope that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can kind of, continue to turn things around there, because he's a particular favourite of mine. He played for United at a glorious period, and did really well for them. So if anybody is going to succeed there, I really do hope it's him. So fingers crossed. I don't think of anything more to say. I'm trying to kind of talk around the fact that we lost to Seville again, because they beat us in the Champions League a couple of years ago too. Yeah. The only thing I will say is my team from Belfast is playing in the Europa League, right? So I'm trying to put a positive Europa League spin here. My team from Belfast is playing in the Europa League preliminary round tomorrow against one of the teams from Faroe Islands. So fingers crossed that they can win the game in Belfast. It's just one leg. It's normally two. It's the first time they've been in Europe again for 5 years, because while we were off air in those 3 weeks, they won the Irish Cup, and I was able to watch it online, which was fantastic.
Nice. Okay. At least you have some good news. From my side, I don't have any good news, because the first game of the season for Marseille was postponed because 4 players of Marseille were positive for the COVID, so there won't be a game this Friday. We were supposed to play a game against Saint Etienne, and we're not. It's postponed to the 17th of September. So no game for me this week. So next week, Marseille will play, I think, against Brest, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll be watching the beginning of the season of Olympique de Marseille, because it's very important. And of course, we give you a few updates here and there on Soccer by Paul and Hady. My friend Paul, thank you very much for being with me again this week. And thank you, everybody, for listening to our pods week in, week out. And please feel free to retweet our podcast, to talk about it, and to let us know what you think. Thank you again for the Cannes Football Club for hosting our podcast, and see you next time for another episode of Soccer by Paul and Hady.